Well, happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the ParadigmNEXT January webinar. My name is Aaron Rosen, and we are so excited that you guys decided to join us on this semi-decent weather day here in Chicago. I want to introduce our guest for this webinar, Emerald Jane Hunter. Very excited to have her. Thank you for coming. How are you doing today, Emerald?
I'm good. It's Friday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It's always a good day.
Got the weekend coming up, so have that to be excited for. And Emerald Jane, I say let's just get into it. What do you think? So Emerald Jane comes from a great background here in Chicago, working in the Chicago and media industry. Now she's actually currently on the other side, working in public relations. So you come with a lot of experience and background. And how's it been working in the industry here in Chicago?
Yeah, it's been really good. I cannot complain. I moved to the United States about 17 years ago for school, and I moved in Chicago in '03. And I'm very passionate about television. I'm very passionate about the media world, and I set out to ensure that I work in every genre out there possible. So I've done everything from game shows to award shows to reality TV to entertainment shows, and then most recently, not too long ago, talk show with BBC Live here in Chicago. And before this started, we were talking about my journey, and it's really, sometimes I have to take a step back to say that I was looking forward to slowing down by switching sides, a little bit of catch up on sleep because I've been really busy the past 17 years. But PR is pretty stressful. It was recently named, number 6 most stressful job to have. So, but it's been good. It's been good. Can't complain.
Yeah, so kind of give our viewers just I know you mentioned Windy City Live. Give us some background on some of the shows and things you did within the Chicago media industry.
Okay. Yeah. So I worked at a local production company here in town, Central City Productions, doing game shows and award shows through them. And then throughout the years, I worked on American Idol, I worked on Oprah's Big Give, I worked on American Inventor, which only lasted 1 season. And then I did a little stint in the other kind of reality TV. I worked on Bridezillas. I'm not always like jumping for short after that. Okay. And then I'm very entrepreneurial. I think I was born an entrepreneur. And in 2007, I decided to start my own production company. And I met some friends out in the industry, and we came together and created the show 24/7 that's on NBC. So that really began a different cycle of work in media for me, which was no longer just working and getting the job done, but more so creating content and taking it from script to screen and learning the ins and outs of that side of the business. So that was great. And that is what led me to Windy City Live. I made great connections, great contacts, and the word was Oprah's going off, and ABC 7 in Chicago wants to put something of good quality, and it was Windy City Live. And I was very honored to have been a part of that show from day one.
Mm-hmm. And tell us some of your experiences with Windy City Live. I know you've booked amazing, world-class, really talented people on the show and worked really behind the scenes. So what kind of things were you doing day-to-day at Windy City Live?
So the team, we were a very small team at Windy City Live when it first started. So I got really lucky to be able to produce some segments as well as book. So Billy Deck's What's on Deck segment, I produced those. Nina Chantel had a segment on there, I produced those. And then I produced some of the food segments. So Food Fight with G and Matt, that was me. I was out in the field with them. I loved that. And there are quite a few other segments that I got to produce because I'm producer first and producer at heart. And then obviously I was hired to be a booker, but once the team, they already knew my background and knew my skill set, it didn't make sense to just remove me from producing and just focus solely on booking. So it was a great combination. And it's been great. I mean, being able to, I would say, I take a lot of pride in knowing that I was part of a team filled with brilliant people, but we had to put up a show that was going to replace the Oprah Winfrey Show, that had built a loyal following for 25 years, and we had to prove that we were worth their time every day. And for me, I had to prove to the outside world, celebrities coming to town, and whomever it was that I wanted to book, that we would deliver, that we needed to be a place they would stop through. So building that and building that booking department, that was challenging, but that's probably one of the highlights of my career.
Mm-hmm. And when you were producing these segments, kind of what was the inspiration and really what did you think about so your audience can be engaged and really follow and tune in and feel impacted by this content?
Right. Well, I mean, the first thing is finding out why you're putting this segment out on TV. There's got to be a good reason. Are we trying to influence the viewers? Are we trying to make an impact? Are we just jumping on a trend? Whatever the purpose is, really is what drives how you produce it, because that's really the core of the message that you're trying to get out. So, it varies. Sometimes we did segments where we just wanted to do something to give back. So we would find a story that was really touching, a school that's struggling, they're about to lose their music program funding. That was the segment I actually produced. I booked and produced. And we were able to get all the kids to come in on the show, perform live, and put out a challenge to our viewers out there to say, let's help them raise money. And throughout the hour, we were able to raise and beat that goal. So it really depends on what the goal is and what the purpose is. I mean, for food segments, it's really to highlight not just the restaurants, but the food. So you have to visually stimulate people's brains to see that food and go, gosh, I'm going there to try that food. So that's a different art. Mm-hmm. It's an art of filming food is very different from just, a pure art of just storytelling with people.
Right. Yeah. And I know you mentioned Billy Deck. I mean, he's a huge name in Chicago and has some of the biggest venues and restaurants. Mm-hmm. So producing specific food segments with Billy Deck, how was that process? And
well, actually, I didn't produce food segments with Billy. It's interesting. Billy had a segment on that was called What's on Deck, and he was more so what's been happening around town. His segments were on Thursdays. So it's like what to do, where to go, how to enjoy some time with your family out and whatnot. So that was his segment. So doing that, it was just, God, there's so much that happens in Chicago. Our list was always just like 4 or 5 pages long, if not longer. And we could only get 5 events on. So it really comes down to trimming things down and figuring out what event is timely, what event is impactful, what event is going to be the most exciting or useful for the viewers to have. And obviously, having free tickets for the audience, since it's a live show, that always is a nice perk. So if there's an event that says, hey, we'll give your entire audience tickets, that's a nice shoe-in.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So if I'm someone pitching to Windy City Live because I want to be covered and I want to talk about my message, company, whatever it is, we're not all Billy Deck. We all have the big presence and following as him. How can you get out there and really get whatever message you're trying to promote to be newsworthy and followed by Windy City Live?
Right. Well, I think the first thing is to really know the platform that you're pitching. Mm-hmm. So Windy City Live is just one of many other platforms that are out there. So whether it's Windy City Live, you need to watch the show. You need to know how they do their shows, how they program, how they tell their story, because they've got some slight differences. WCIU, the platform that you're pitching. There's nothing worse than pitching. I've received pitches that will name somebody else at another station, and sometimes they'll say, it'll include the name of the station, wrong name with the name of the wrong station in an email to me. It's like you have to just really tighten up, because it's just a no-no. And then figuring out a few things. What things move the media? Media loves something if it's timely. Is your product or service or business, is it something that's lined up with something that's in the news, that's buzzing, that's timely? So, if everyone's talking about Flint, Michigan, water issue, do you have a water brand, a water filter? Something like that. Is there something that's buzzing in the news that you can take and use your brand around it in a positive way to say, I've got the solution for that. Don't use bad news to push your brand. There's a fine line between those two, so we can get into that a little later. Also change. Is it something that's new? Is it something that's different? Is it something that's trendy? Is it something that everyone needs to know because it's going to change your life? That's another point to note. anything with prominence. Are you doing something that's got like Vince Vaughn in it, and celebrity, big names, whatnot? That's always a draw because media. I mean, I love the media. I will forever be a member of the media, no matter what capacity or role I play. But we're a little shallow. So if there's a celebrity in there's a big name, somebody who will draw viewership and draw ratings and whatnot, hey, winning. So if you've got a brand and your brand ambassador is, Sarah Jessica Parker, great, we'll book it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you have the steps. You send the email or you make the contact. What are kind of some of the other steps outside of just making that initial contact to ensure you can get a spot on Windy City Live or any other news outlet?
Right. So, the art of getting some publicity for your business and brand really transcends the TV world. It goes beyond TV. I feel like we live in a world now where there's so many ways in which you can take control, some level of control, to get exposure for your brand. And obviously social media is a big part. I mean, I'm grateful there was no Facebook when I was going to college. But social media really allows you to find a way to still connect with consumers out there. And I think one big thing that we also look for, and I see we as in, bookers and the TV world, is if you've built a following and you've lots of Facebook followers, lots of Twitter followers, that counts now. Because we may not know of your brand, you may not have a celebrity, it may not be timely, it may make a change, whatever that is. But if 1 million people are following you on YouTube, or 120,000 are following you on Facebook, that goes towards our decision to book something, because obviously you're doing something right and well enough to have that many people. So I'm always quick to say, getting coverage on TV is great, because that's like a one step that gets to a lot of people, but you can do the same with social media. But the thing about social media where I think we find little gaps in this is that there's a strategy and an art to doing that. And I think that's where a lot of people don't know how to work it. But there's so many people who are studying it in school now. There's so many agencies and companies that offer that service. So you don't have to guess too much. You just consult with a few people and sit down and figure out what your brand's message is and what you're trying to get out, and let's be strategic and be very creative and come up with ways to use social media to leverage that. And you can still achieve fairly decent results just with social media.
Yeah, and how have you seen the traditional media outlets, whether it's print and TV, start to kind of gravitate towards more social media and using these outlets as an effective way to promote yourself and all the companies and everything you're promoting?
I mean, social media has become an extension of the TV world. With TV, you're limited to a certain number of minutes. So, depending on the kind of content show you have, a 1 hour show is about, 47, 48 minutes. A half-hour show is about 22 or so minutes. So you might have extra material left. You may have more things you wanted to say that you're not able to say on the air. Well, social media, online platform, that is an extension of your voice that can live on forever. It can live on longer. You can engage with people. Or while your show is on the air live, for example, you can be on social media communicating with people as they're watching, because we live in a world now where everyone's, there's a term for it. I'm really blanking on what that's called, but people no longer just sit and watch TV. People always have dual screens on. They're either on watching TV and on their phone, or they're watching TV and on their computer or on their tablet. Nobody just sits and just puts their hand down and just watches TV. Everyone's doing something else with some other electronic something while they're watching TV. So that's a great way to think about additional information that you can have on your social channels to enhance and complement what you're doing on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's just an extension of your voice.
Absolutely. And now, since you've gravitated towards the PR side, and you're working with Henson Consulting, which is a huge agency here in Chicago, working with a lot of Chicago brands, what have you learned even more? And maybe you can shed some light to our viewers on how to pitch the perfect story so someone will pick it up and really find it important.
Right. One of the big things I wouldn't say learned, but really experienced, when I was on the media end, you're so in your world that all you're worried about and focused on is your world. So my entire everything was just Windy City Live. But once you come on the other side, you realize now it's your job to help tell these stories and convince bookers and producers to greenlight your pitch. And now you're competing with the rest of the world in a sense. So, and one thing I realized for Chicago, there are not enough platforms out there. There's not enough media out there. There's, depending on the kind of show you have, there are only 3 or 4 shows for cooking segments to chef, you know what I mean? And it's just, it's just very interesting. But it makes it even more exciting to be able to celebrate a win. Because when you win and you get that, you realize that you really did a great job at crafting your pitch to have yours get selected over all the masses that are out there. And I think the biggest thing with that is content. I mean, you've got to be creative. You've got to take it a couple steps further. You can't just take a pitch and just send it out. You've got to really spruce it up and add a few more bells and whistles just to get that little edge.
Right. And what are some of the ways you've seen companies being creative or ways that are very effective of making that impression and being creative and different?
I don't know if I can necessarily say a specific example of our company, but I have, for what I know, and I think is is a genius way to go about it, is finding ways to create an experience with your brand, or finding a way to do something beyond what the limits of your brand to generate media attention. So instead of just taking a pitch, crafting a pitch, and then hoping someone says yes, think about your product, and hopefully someone out there has an example they can give me, because I work better if I can use an example to literally tell you how you can go about it. But if, let's say, you've got a tea brand, and you make teas and all the stuff, and we want to pitch a segment to a TV show to make tea, and they're like, we really don't want you to come on and make tea. Well, how do you take it one step further? Is let's figure out what can we do, whether it's for the good of the community or it's a cold day. Do we go out on the street and we are serving tea to everyone? Like, what is it? What can we do that creates some sort of a mini campaign, but that can generate social media buzz? So there's a hashtag that you create while you're doing it, so you can put it out. This is what we're going to do. We're all going to use this hashtag, and then do it. Do it because you're still getting the word out yourself with your brand. But as you're doing it, have some experience tied to it, and that's what's going to attract the media. Because media will be more likely to cover, somebody going and donating 1,000 pounds of beef to a homeless shelter than they would having you come on just to cook with your beef, so you can keep mentioning the name of your brand 100 times over.
Right.
Which they're just like, okay, come on. It's so obvious. It's like, but they would much rather cover something that's giving back, it's feeding, and it's just this brand that's happening to do it. Yeah.
Right.
So. And
it goes back to your first point, where it's really important for that social media engagement and really building that strong following.
Yeah.
Cool. Another thing, how do you build that network of people that are going to care about your brand and follow you on social media and talk about your company out there and really feel like they're a part of it?
Right. So I have this saying, which is a translation I'm from Ghana, so it's a translation from one of the many languages that we speak there, and it's one hand washing the other. Your right hand can't wash you can't take something in your hand and wash your entire right hand. You're going to need your left hand to do that for you. And that translation is giving to receive. You've got to give to receive. It's like a tit for tat type thing. You cannot be so focused and so into your brand and what you're doing and what you stand for that you forget to give. Now, if you can give, and giving doesn't mean giving, money or anything like that, but giving, finding out, does my brand serve somebody? Does it help somebody? Does it make you feel better? Like, what is it that my brand can do for you? And let me do it. Let me give to you. People gravitate towards that, and they will gradually you will judge what you receive. And I know it sounds so general and so out there, but you have to also be authentic with how you put yourself out, and you have to be patient. People get on social media and they're just like, I only have 100 likes, and I need to get to 1,000 likes, and you can't buy that because of the difference between likes and engagement. You can buy likes, but you won't get the engagement from it.
The most important part, absolutely.
Which is the most important part. So, being authentic and being patient. If you believe in your brand and you're doing something good and you're filling a need, just believe in what you have and keep steadily putting it out there. And one day, something, you're just going to hit that. You're just going to just get lucky, I guess, or whatnot, and people are going to follow you. But yeah, you can't just be so into yourself and just be so focused on you, and
At the core, you need to be passionate and really believe your product and service.
Yeah.
Awesome. And just to wrap up my portion, then we'll toss the question and answers over from our audience. And again, audience, feel free to submit any questions for our great friend Emerald Jane. What have you enjoyed so much working in this field and being in Chicago and really getting a glimpse of the entire industry?
Right. Well, Chicago has been my everything. Any national shows I've worked on while they came here to town. So I can say that I'm 100% Chicago media. I know the market. I know how what the Midwest sensibility is. I know how we think. I know what works. Certain things that we do here, people in LA or New York will look at us like, are you crazy? But there's a reason why we're so uniquely wonderful in our own way. So, I mean, just being in the Chicago market, Chicago has given a lot to me in my career. So I'm always dedicated to giving back whatever way I can with Chicago. Now, being at Henson on the PR side, or just using, and I wouldn't even say PR side because I don't physically do the PR. I just work with the account teams, influencing the pitches and how we pitch, and obviously leveraging my contacts to help open any additional doors that are needed. But the biggest thing has been the challenge of coming up with an idea for a pitch and seeing who bites and getting that win. You know, I mean, that has been the greatest joy in making the switch. That has for me, because now I'm in a competitive field, and it's a competitive world, and I like to win. I think everybody likes to win, but I really like to win. So it's been great to be able to be faced with a client or a brand that may be different from what I'm used to working with, and having to really tap into the creative part of my brain to figure out what can we do that can be innovative, that could be great, that could be fun, that I know will work. I know how the media thinks. I know how television works. I know how to program something for viewers. But it's taking that and applying it to something that may not be what you're always used to, and finding a way to make it work. And I love a challenge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. Wow. I'm inspired. So thank you so much. I guess we'll toss and see if there are any questions or.
Yeah, we have one question. The question is, how does Chicago differ from other markets? An example would be like LA, New York City.
With regards to what, TV or PR or?
I think just in general, both.
In general, both.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm going to say that, like, Chicago, we're just so unique because we're not LA and we're not New York in both the good and bad sense. Good sense is we are real. I feel like people in LA are not always real. It's this thing that you have to be. So we are real, and we can see through fake. And that's one of the things about how you represent your brand and how you pitch to television. Is in the Midwest, we know when you're just blowing smoke up our behinds, and we just prefer that you just keep it straight, keep it real. Let's get this going. Bad is we don't have as many outlets, like I said, for pitching. So, you know, if you're focusing on something that's Chicago, you're really limited to ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, and then WGN, WCIU, and that's pretty much it. Versus New York and LA, they have, you know, double, triple the outlets. So if you can't win at the station, you've got 10 or 15 more to pick from. And in our case, if you're pitching the media, you've got 5 or 6 stations, and you're always pitching those 5 or 6 stations. And so there's a fine line between annoying someone or it's very repetitive. So that's like and I wouldn't say bad because I think it's going to get better, but it's the not so advantageous thing about being in Chicago. But we still find ways to win. I mean, social media really it connects, it unites us and connects us. So, yeah.
Cool. Awesome. I actually have another question. From a PR perspective, do you have any tips or suggestions for a company that's rebranding? Should it be gradual or an immediate switch?
You know, it depends on why you're rebranding. If it's a ownership change or something like that, that's definitely different from you're just refreshing your brand. I would say if it's an established brand that's been around for a long time, then you obviously have to do a gradual switch because people are so used to one thing. But if it's not, and if it's something that you have to do urgently and you need to rebrand, you need to quickly regain the confidence of your consumers. So it really depends. I don't think there's like one answer for that, but it really depends on why you're rebranding. But I would say that one focus that you can have on the PR end that is evergreen, that you can't ever go wrong, once again, is content and creativity. Like how well you craft the message as to, hey, I am the same person, I just look different. You know what I mean? I had long hair, now I cut my hair and it's short, but I am the same person. At the core of who I am, I have the same heart, I care. So it's all about how you position it and how you say it. And it's not just how you say it as in the words, but it's how you creatively say it. And video, I didn't get a chance to say this, but video is playing a big role now because people are getting lazier and lazier. People do not want to read as much, and I'm just, it's just the truth. So if you can do something with video and you can communicate something through that visual medium versus typing 2 or 3 paragraphs that no one's going to read. I was a booker for almost 5 years. I would get those long pitches, and it's just like, gosh, just tell me in one sentence who it is, what you want, like, done. But if you can do that through video, then that's great, because with video you can evoke all the emotions, joy, happiness, that, tears, whatever that is, and that's how you get the power back in your hands to really get your brand, your consumers to follow you, whether you've rebranded or not. But yeah, I don't know if there's one answer, but it's all dependent on your why.
We have another question from Florence Hardy. Is pitching to television outlets much different than pitching to bloggers and other types of content producers? Yes.
When you're pitching to television, you also have to think about the visual part, because television is visual. So when you're pitching, whatever you're pitching, you have to include the visual things that come with it. So, for example, if you're pitching, National Cake Day, and you're pitching, a blogger might take one photo and that's it. If they take a photo, they may just write about it and that's it. Versus a television station may want you to bring like a ton of cake that gets piled up, and it's that visual, exaggerated look, and it's, or you can pitch it with an angle of how much cake is too much cake, and then do a challenge. With TV, you always have to include in your pitch any kind of visual things. And one big thing too is if you're pitching something that comes with a spokesperson, whether it's the owner or you want somebody physically to go and speak on it, always include a link. So we want to see, as a booker, I want to see, is that person a good talker? Can they convince me? Because I may be a believer of your brand and what that is, but if that person sitting in the seat cannot articulate it, you might as well forget it. And for a producer, your main job is to make sure that your gas blows it out the water. So if you have someone who can't really speak well, then that doesn't work either. But always send a link as well, video link showing how that person is on camera.
Director Andrew, any more questions? Or?
No, that's it from the audience.
All right. Well, thank you, audience, for submitting those great questions. I guess we will just wrap it up. Emerald Jane, what else? What's your golden tip that you feel that you'd like to offer to our audience? And
don't stop pitching. Even if you keep getting no's and you're frustrated, don't stop. Keep going. Don't give up. And also tap into your network. Don't ever assume that somebody won't help you out. You have to ask. So the biggest thing is sometimes you're struggling, you're not sure what to do, but you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. Make that call, send that email, send a text, open up and be honest and ask, and you'll get that help. And stay active on social media and the trends. Keep up with the trends. If Periscope is the new thing, read about it, research, inundate yourself with it, know everything that there is to know about it. Get on Periscope, see what other people are doing, draw inspiration from other places, and always keep learning. The minute you stop learning, you're going to lose it all. And follow me on social media. But I wouldn't say that because I'm not a very interesting person, but I felt like I had to say that because of the PR.
Promote your own brand, right?
I know. It's like, yeah.
All right. Well, don't stop pitching, audience. Thank you again so much for tuning in. And Emerald Jane, unbelievable. I'm inspired. I feel like I know how to go and pitch a brand now, and I really want to get after it. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I feel like the audience and I really enjoyed it. So thank you for joining us.
Fun. Anytime.
And finally, audience, we will be hosting a webinar next month. So stay tuned, ParadigmNEXT. And I don't know if it can beat this, but we'll try. So thank you so much. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend.